For most of my life, I never felt a single thing wrong with my liver. No pain, no warning, no sign at all. By the time a doctor told me I had fatty liver disease, I was 70 years old, and it had been quietly building inside me for years. The hard part wasn't only the diagnosis, it was that I, of all people, should have known better. I had spent decades as a physician sitting on the other side of that desk telling my patients to take care of themselves. And there I was hearing the very same news I had given to so many others. My name is Dr. Richard. I am 106 years old now. 80 years I spent practicing medicine, and I am still here, still sharp, still standing, still able to sit down and talk with you today. Part of the reason for that, I believe, is 10 ordinary foods, not pills, not potions, foods you can buy at any grocery store for a few dollars this very afternoon. Let's begin. Number 1, coffee. I'll start with the easiest one because most of you already have it in the kitchen. That morning cup of coffee, yes, the plain black kind, may be doing your liver a quiet favor. Researchers have found that regular coffee drinkers tend to have a lower risk of developing fatty liver disease, and in those who already have it, coffee appears to slow the scarring of the liver over time. It also seems to help bring down those abnormal liver enzymes that show up on a blood test. Here's how I take mine and have for 50 years. 1 cup brewed strong in the early morning light. A splash of milk if you like, but go easy on the sugar because sugar is one of the very things we are trying to spare the liver. I drink it slow by the window before the day asks anything of me. A small ritual, a small kindness. Number 2, leafy greens. If coffee was the easy one, here's the powerful one. Spinach and the other dark leafy greens. In one study, people who ate spinach had a lower risk of fatty liver disease. And here's the curious part. It was raw spinach that showed the strongest effect. The thinking is that cooking may break down some of the protective plant compounds that do the good work, so for the liver, raw often wins. My favorite way, a big handful of fresh baby spinach in a bowl, drizzled with good olive oil and a splash of balsamic vinegar. A few berries scattered on top and a sprinkle of seeds. It's crisp, it's a little sweet, and it takes 3 minutes to make. I ate a bowl like that nearly every day during my recovery, and I still do. Number 3, beans and soy. Now stay with me because this next one is humble but mighty. Beans and soy. Legumes, your lentils, chickpeas, soybeans, and peas are full of fiber and what scientists call resistant starch, which feeds the good bacteria in your gut and can help steady your blood sugar and lower the fats in your blood. Diets rich in beans have been linked with a lower likelihood of fatty liver disease. And soy in particular in tofu or in a warm bowl of miso soup contains a protein that may help bring triglyceride levels down. When my appetite was poor, I lived on a pot of white bean and vegetable soup. Soft, warm, gentle on the stomach, and it keeps for days. Or a simple 3-bean salad with a little olive oil and lemon. Cheap filling, and your liver thanks you for every spoonful. Number 4, fatty fish. Here's one I'd put near the very top, the oily fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, trout. These are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-3s have been shown to help reduce the fat stored in the liver, lift the good HDL cholesterol, and lower triglycerides. For a struggling liver, that's a great deal of help in one humble fillet. My supper 2 or 3 nights a week is a piece of salmon baked in the oven with nothing more than a squeeze of lemon, a little olive oil, and some herbs. 20 minutes and it's done. And if money is tight, a tin of sardines on a piece of whole grain toast does the very same good for a fraction of the price. Don't let anyone tell you that eating well has to be expensive. It doesn't. Number 5, whole grains. By now, you might be wondering what on earth you're supposed to have for breakfast. Here is my answer, and it's been my answer every single morning for years. Oats, whole grains, and high-fiber foods like oatmeal are linked with a lower risk of liver trouble. And that fiber may help bring triglycerides down as well. I make mine warm and creamy with a swirl of almond butter melting into it, a spoonful of chia seeds, and a handful of blueberries on top. It's the kind of breakfast that holds you till lunch and doesn't send your blood sugar spiking. Comfortable, simple, and it has been keeping my engine running for a very long time. Number 6, nuts. A little handful of nuts a day, walnuts, almonds, whatever you enjoy. Diets rich in nuts have been associated with less inflammation, steadier blood sugar, and a lower rate of fatty liver disease. One study found that people who ate more nuts had a meaningfully lower risk. Now, a word of caution from an old doctor: a handful, not a bucket. Nuts are wonderful, but they are rich, so a small palm is plenty. I keep mine in a little dish on the counter, and when the afternoon hunger comes knocking, I reach for those instead of the biscuit tin or apple slices with a smear of peanut butter. That's a fine afternoon snack too. Number 7, turmeric. Here's the one that surprised even me after 60 years in medicine. That bright orange spice, turmeric. Its active ingredient, curcumin, has been studied for the liver, and the research suggests it may lower those markers of liver strain that run high when the liver is in trouble. Now, I'll be honest with you, those studies often used concentrated amounts, far more than you'd ever get from a pinch in your cooking. So I won't promise you miracles from the spice rack, but adding it to your meals does no harm, and it may quietly help. I stir it into soups and stews where it turns everything a beautiful gold. Or on a cold evening I warm a cup of milk with a little turmeric and a crack of black pepper. The pepper helps your body take it in. We call it golden milk. It's a soothing thing to hold in your hands before bed. Number 8, sunflower seeds. This little one is easy to overlook. Sunflower seeds. They're one of the richest natural sources of vitamin E, and a diet with plenty of vitamin E has been linked with a lower likelihood of fatty liver disease. It's a small, inexpensive way to give your liver a bit more support. I keep a jar of them, and I sprinkle a spoonful over that spinach salad or onto my morning oats for a little crunch. You'll hardly notice them, but your liver just might. Number 9, healthy fats. Now, this one isn't a single food so much as a simple swap, and it may be the most important habit on this whole list. The kind of fat matters. Trading the saturated fats, butter, fatty cuts of meat, sausages for the unsaturated kind found in olive oil, avocados, nuts, and oily fish has been shown to help people with fatty liver. It's a big part of why the Mediterranean way of eating, all that olive oil and vegetables and fish, is so often recommended for a liver like mine was. So I cook with olive oil now instead of butter. I'll have half an avocado mashed onto a slice of whole grain toast for lunch. The same satisfying richness, but the good kind. A small change you make just once, and then it simply becomes how you eat. Number 10, garlic. And last, but certainly not least, garlic. In one study, people with fatty liver who took garlic over several months saw reductions in liver fat and improvements in their enzyme levels. Other research has linked regular garlic in the diet with a lower risk of the disease. As with the turmeric, those studies often used concentrated garlic, but a generous hand with the fresh clove in your cooking is a wonderful, flavorful habit. Either way, I roast whole cloves until they're soft and sweet and spread them like butter. I crush it raw into my salad dressing. It makes everything taste better, and it may be doing good while it does. There's no downside to a kitchen that smells of garlic. Now, I promised you honesty, so here is the other half of the story. Adding these foods was only part of what healed me. The other part was gently letting some things go. I cut out alcohol completely. It is one of the hardest things on a liver. I cut back hard on added sugar, on the sweet drinks and the candies, because sugar feeds the very fat we're trying to clear. I stepped away from fried foods, from too much salt, and from the red and processed meats. I didn't do it all in a single day. I did it one swap at a time, and after a while I didn't miss them. Over the months that followed, with my own doctor checking my blood work along the way, my liver enzymes came back down. The fat that had quietly built up began to clear. My body did the healing. I just finally got out of its way. If you've stayed with me all the way to here, then let me tell you something true. You are one of the lucky ones. Most people never make it this far. They click away. They move on to the next thing, the next video, the next bit of noise. But you stayed. And the fact that you stayed tells me something about you. It tells me that some quiet part of you is still listening, still reaching for something more than a list of foods. So I am going to keep the promise I made you at the very beginning. I told you I would explain why. Why some people stay strong and clear-eyed right up until the final breath, and why others spend years lying in a bed, their bodies failing them, waiting in pain for an ending that will not come quickly. In 80 years of medicine, I watched both again and again, and I will tell you now, the difference was rarely the one I expected. Let me start where the scientists start. Strip a human being down far enough and you do not find flesh. You find tiny particles, and look closer still past the particles, and even those dissolve into waves, into vibration, into pure moving energy. That is what you are, underneath everything, not solid at all, a pattern of energy quietly humming. So here is the question that took me most of my life to ask. What governs that energy? What decides whether it hums in harmony or grinds itself apart? I have come to believe the answer is the simplest and the most overlooked thing of all. It is thought. The quality of a human life rides on the quality of a human mind. A truly healthy person, I have found, is not just a body that eats well. It is a mind arranged toward the good, toward gratitude, toward acceptance, toward love. There is a book that finally gave me words for something I had felt for 50 years but could never name. It was written by a physician named Dr. David Hawkins, and he called it Power versus Force. In it, he laid out what he named a map of consciousness, a kind of scale of the human spirit. At the very bottom sit the heaviest states a person can carry: shame, guilt, apathy, grief, and fear. These, he taught, are the states that drain us, that take far more life than they ever give back. Climb a little higher and you reach anger and then pride, still restless, still hungry, still never enough. But there is a turning point. He said it comes right around the level he called courage. Below it, a person is forever being pulled downward, spending their days simply defending and surviving. Above it, something shifts. Life begins to flow toward you instead of away from you. Keep rising, and you pass into acceptance, then into reason, then into love, and higher still into peace. Now I will be honest with you. This was his framework, his way of seeing the world, not a number you can carry into a laboratory, but as a map for the inner life. It rang truer to me than almost anything I learned in medical school, where a man chooses to live on that scale, day after day, slowly shapes the body that has to carry him. So how does a person stay near the top of that map? That, my friend, is the hard part, because the world is forever pulling us back down. Every one of us begins whole, but living among other people wears the spirit thin. We collect small wounds and we never tend to them. We let them harden. And here is the thing I most want you to understand. Your mind is a vessel. Whatever you pour into it day after day is what it fills with. And most people, without ever once choosing it, spend their days pouring in poison, the endless bad news, the hollow entertainment that leaves nothing behind, the outrage, the noise. Pour that in long enough, and the vessel begins to rot from the inside. Gratitude is the first thing to go. Then comes the comparing, measuring your one precious life against everybody else's, and always somehow coming up short. Then come the regrets, the long backward stare at all the things you can no longer change. These are not harmless little habits of the mind, they are a low and heavy hum, and the body that houses them year after year slowly learns to hum along. And here is what frightened me most. Once I finally saw it for what it was, when your body begins to weaken, you know it. You feel the stairs grow steeper, the grip grow softer, and you go looking for help. But the mind does not announce its own decay. It does something far stranger and far more dangerous. It mistakes its sickness for itself. It blends so completely with its own bitterness that it begins to call that bitterness wisdom. It wraps its own hollowness in a hard shell and calls that shell strength. A mind that has grown crooked will look at anything still straight and whole, and it will push it away, it will argue against it, it defends its own distortion to the very end. That is how good people slowly calcify into stubborn, closed-off versions of themselves and never once suspect that anything has gone wrong. For years and years I studied this. I read everything I could lay my hands on, and still I could not find the cure for a mind in decline. Until one day, and I truly never saw it coming, I understood that I was a patient in my own ward. The very disease I had spent a lifetime treating in other people had quietly made a home in me. You see, somewhere along the way I had fallen into the long chase, fame and money. I wanted the next title, the next honor with my name engraved on it. I wanted the newer car in the drive and the proud watch on my wrist, the kind that tells the whole world exactly where you stand. I spent my days treating the wealthy and dining with the powerful. And slowly, without ever once deciding to, I picked up the yardstick and I began measuring myself with it. It hollowed me out 1 year at a time. It turned a healer into a greedy and envious man. And the sickness in my spirit became a sickness in my body because I started drinking with my new friends. And I threw away the very diet and the very discipline I had preached for decades. My blood pressure climbed, my blood sugar climbed. I was coming apart at the seams, and I told myself I was succeeding. And then life reached out and it slapped me awake. My wife died. I cannot tell you how many suppers I had let pass without ever sitting down at our own table. How many evenings I had given away to people who did not matter in rooms I can no longer even remember. And when she was gone, the whole of it went suddenly silent and empty and pointless. It was a cut so clean and so deep that at first I felt nothing at all. Nothing until the illness I had been out running for years finally caught me. I lay there in a body I had betrayed, in a life I had emptied with my own 2 hands, and I believed that this was simply how the rest of it would go, buried in sickness, marking time. I had become certain of one thing, and one thing only, that hell was real, that I had found it, and that it had taken the shape of a hospital bed. When I was 80 years old, I was hospitalized for a severe spike in my high blood pressure. One afternoon, as I lay there waiting for the end, a strange figure appeared in the doorway of my hospital room. The man slowly approached my bed. Through the fog of my illness, I stared into his eyes, and with a sudden jolt, I recognized him. He was an old friend, a fellow soldier who had served with me during World War II. We had gone through life and death together, but we had lost complete contact for 50 long years, ever since the battlefields of Japan. The most shocking, undeniable fact was standing right in front of me. Although he was an 80-year-old man just like me, His physical appearance and vibrant energy were that of someone in their early 60s. For a fleeting moment, I actually thought I was looking at his son. We spent several joyful hours reminiscing about our harrowing days fighting in World War II in Japan. Then, as if anticipating the burning question in my mind, he leaned forward and told me his secret. He explained that his remarkable health, his youthful appearance, and his radiant energy were entirely due to his practice of Falun Dafa. Now I was a man who had dedicated his entire life to empirical science, but I simply could not argue with the living, breathing evidence sitting right in front of my eyes. Before he left, he gifted me a book called Jan Falun. I began to read it, and I learned more about the true nature of life and health than I had in all my years of medical school. I learned to live strictly by 3 universal principles: truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. By aligning my heart with these principles, I maintained my spirit, and this profoundly and effectively prevented any further decline in my physical health and cognitive function. Furthermore, the practice taught me to always look for ways to help others. This simple shift in focus brought back my deep sense of value and purpose in life, which in turn dramatically improved both my mental and physical well-being. It took me 30 years of desperate searching, but I finally found the answer. I consider myself incredibly lucky to have found it before it was too late. If you want to experience this profound transformation for yourself, you only need to search the words Falun Dafa. You will immediately find the book Jan Falun, which you can read directly online, and you will find complete free videos teaching the beautiful Qigong movements. Let me tell you this from the bottom of my 106-year-old heart. No matter how old you are right now, once you obtain this book, you will look back on this moment in the years to come, and you will see just how incredibly lucky and truly blessed you